The rain hammered the city like it was trying to wash away sins nobody had confessed yet. Andrew's fist connected with the wall beside Paul's head. Not hard enough to break bone, but enough to make the cheap dorm plaster crack like a promise shattering. I swear to God, if you ever breathe a word of this to anyone, Andrew hissed, his breath hot and whiskey-soured against Paul's lips, eyes wild with a terror that looked a lot like desire turned inside out. Paul didn't flinch. He couldn't. Not when Andrew's body was still pressed against his, the heat of that stolen night seeping through their damp clothes like a secret they both wanted to keep but knew they never could. Paul had always known Andrew was off-limits, the kind of straight guy beautiful that made you ache from a distance. They met freshman year at NYU, thrown together in a shoebox double on the 11th floor of a Washington Square Village dorm that smelled like stale pizza and broken dreams. Paul, with his sharp cheekbones and ink-black hair that fell just so over one eye, had come from a sleepy suburb in Ohio, chasing the neon pulse of New York like it could rewrite his loneliness. Andrew, broad-shouldered and golden-haired, straight out of a Connecticut prep school, talked big about girls and football and how the city was just another conquest waiting to happen. He was the son to Paul's shadow, easy laughs, effortless charm, the type who could charm a barista into a free espresso with a wink. But Paul saw the cracks early. Late-night study sessions turned into confessions over cheap beer from the corner bodega. Andrew would sprawl on his unmade bed, feet dangling off the edge, ranting about his high school girlfriend back home, how she'd cheated with the quarterback, how he hated the way love made him feel small. "It's bullshit, man," he'd say, cracking open another can. "Girls just want the trophy, not the guy holding it." Paul would nod, heart twisting, because he knew exactly what it felt like to want the trophy and never get close enough to touch it. By sophomore year, they'd upgraded to a ratty off-campus apartment in the East Village, a walk-up with peeling wallpaper and a fire escape that groaned like an old man. Rent was split 50-50, but Paul covered more when Andrew's part-time gig at the campus gym fell through. It wasn't pity, it was survival. Andrew was the gravity pulling Paul through the chaos of art school critiques and queer theory seminars that left him raw. Paul was undeclared then, flitting between film studies and literature, but Andrew, he was pre-law, all fire and certainty, quoting Supreme Court cases like scripture. Their routine was sacred. Mornings with black coffee and bagels from the cart on St. Mark's, afternoons dodging tourists in Tompkins Square Park, evenings nursing whiskeys at the Stonewall Inn when Paul dragged him there for culture. Andrew would roll his eyes. "Dude, this place is a museum to bad decisions." But he'd go, nursing his drink in the corner, watching Paul light up around the drag queens and leather daddies like he was finally home. "You're brave, Paulie," Andrew said once, after a tipsy queen had pulled Paul onto the dance floor. "I could never." Paul laughed it off. But inside, it burned. Brave? He was just surviving the want. The first hint of fracture came in November, when Andrew's ex, Sarah, showed up unannounced. She was all blonde ambition and vineyard vines, breezing into their apartment like she owned the lease. Paul played host, frying eggs in the tiny kitchen while they caught up on the fire escape, their laughter filtering through the cracked window like smoke. That night, Andrew didn't come home until dawn, and when he did, his eyes were hollow. "She's engaged," he muttered, collapsing onto the couch. Paul sat beside him, close but not touching. "To the quarterback?" Andrew nodded, then buried his face in his hands. "Fuck love, Paul. It's all a lie." Paul wanted to say, "Not all of it," but he swallowed the words. Instead, he ordered Thai from the place down the block, the kind with extra basil that Andrew pretended to hate but devoured anyway. They ate in silence, the TV flickering some dumb cop show, until Andrew leaned over and clapped Paul on the shoulder. "You're the only one who gets it, man. Brothers forever, right?" Paul forced a grin. Forever. Winter break hit like a freight train. Paul went home to Ohio, endured his parents' passive-aggressive questions about that city life. The unspoken "when are you bringing home a nice girl?" Andrew stayed in the city, crashing with a cousin in Brooklyn, texting Paul blurry selfies from dive bars and rooftop parties. "Miss your ugly mug." One read, attached to a photo of Andrew shirtless in the snow, abs cut like marble under the flash. Paul stared at it too long in his childhood bedroom, the walls closing in with faded posters of The Cure and indie films he'd never direct. Back in January, the air was electric with post-holiday malaise. Andrew threw himself into a fling with a poli-sci TA named Mia, brunette, sharp-tongued, the kind who quoted Foucault at parties. Paul met her at a loft gathering in Williamsburg, fairy lights strung like veins across exposed brick. She was all over Andrew, her hand possessive on his thigh, and he lapped it up, laughing too loud at her jokes. Paul nursed a gin and tonic in the corner, chatting with a sculptor named Javier who smelled like patchouli and possibility. They exchanged numbers, but Paul's eyes kept drifting back to Andrew, who caught him once and mouthed, "Jealous?" with a smirk that twisted like a knife. The fight came fast, over nothing and everything. It was a Thursday, rain sluicing the windows like tears. Andrew stumbled in late from a study session with Mia, reeking of her perfume and cheap Merlot. Paul was editing a short film on the laptop, footage of blurred city lights and anonymous hands reaching in the dark. "Turn that shit off," Andrew slurred, flopping onto the couch. "It's depressing." Paul paused the video, heat rising. "It's art, asshole. Not everything's a frat party." Andrew's laugh was bitter. "Art, right? Like your little gay movies about boys kissing in the rain." The word gay landed like a slap, casual cruelty wrapped in booze. Paul stood, fists clenched. "What the hell is your problem tonight?" Andrew's eyes narrowed, something feral flashing. "My problem? You're my problem, Paul. Always hovering, always there. Like you think one day I'll just... What? Wake up and want you back." The room went still, the rain the only sound. Paul's throat tightened, the truth he'd buried for years clawing its way up. "Maybe I do," he whispered. Andrew froze, then laughed. A hollow, broken sound. "Jesus, Paul. I'm straight. I like pussy. End of story." He grabbed his jacket, slamming the door behind him. Paul sank to the floor, the laptop screen glowing like an accusation. End of story. But stories don't end that easy. Spring crept in with cherry blossoms choking the sidewalks, and Andrew pretended nothing happened. Apologies came in actions. Extra shifts at the gym to cover rent. Playlists of Paul's favorite indie bands left on the stereo. Mia fizzled out, too intense, Andrew said, and he threw himself into their old rhythm, dragging Paul to Knicks games at MSG where the crowd's roar drowned out the silence between them. Paul tried dating. Javier the sculptor turned into 3 awkward coffees and a fumbling hookup that left Paul staring at the ceiling, thinking of Andrew's laugh. Then there was Theo, a barista with tattoos snaking up his arms like secrets, who made Paul feel seen but not wanted the way that gnawed at him. "You're holding back," Theo said one night, post-sex in his Bushwick walk-up. Paul didn't deny it. Andrew noticed, of course. New boy toy? He'd tease over breakfast, flipping pancakes with a spatula like nothing was fractured. Paul would shrug, just seeing where it goes. But Andrew's eyes would linger, a shadow crossing his face before he cracked another joke. The night that changed everything brewed slow, like a storm over the Hudson. It was June, the city a sweat-soaked beast, and their lease was up in a month. Graduation loomed, Paul with a film degree and a vague internship at an indie production house. Andrew with law school acceptances from Columbia and Yale. To celebrate the end of an era, Andrew declared a rager at their place. Kegs on the fire escape, EDM thumping from Bluetooth speakers, bodies spilling out the door like confetti. Paul hovered on the edges, nursing a beer, watching Andrew hold court in the living room. He was magnetic, shirt unbuttoned just enough to show the V of his chest, hair tousled from dancing. Girls orbited him, but his eyes kept finding Paul across the room, pull like gravity. By midnight, the party thinned, stragglers crashing on the couch, and Andrew cornered Paul in the kitchen. "Dance with me," he said, voice low, hand extended. Paul hesitated. "You're wasted," Andrew grinned. "Feral." "So are you." The music shifted to something slower, a remix of the National that pulsed like a heartbeat. They moved to the living room, bodies close in the crush, Andrew's hand on Paul's waist tentative at first, then firm. Paul's breath hitched as Andrew leaned in, lips brushing his ear. "This doesn't mean anything," Andrew murmured, but his grip said otherwise. They stumbled out to the fire escape for air, the city sprawling below like a glittering lie. Rain started then, sudden and biblical, soaking them in seconds. Andrew laughed, head thrown back, water streaming down his face. Paul watched, transfixed, as Andrew turned to him, eyes dark with something unspoken. "Paul," he said, voice cracking. And then he kissed him. It was messy, desperate, teeth clashing, hands fisting wet shirts, the metal railing cold against Paul's back. Andrew tasted like tequila and regret, but he kissed like a man drowning, pulling Paul closer until there was no space left for denial. They broke apart gasping, foreheads pressed together, rain mingling with the salt on their cheeks. "Fuck," Andrew whispered. "What are we doing?" Paul's heart thundered. "Whatever we want." They tumbled inside, past the snoring party ghosts, into Andrew's room. Clothes shed like skins, bodies colliding in the dark. Andrew's hands mapping Paul's skin like uncharted territory. Paul's fingers tracing the scars from high school lacrosse, the freckles dusting Andrew's shoulders. It was feverish, unspoken vows in every gasp, every arch of the back. Andrew moved like he'd been starving, whispering Paul's name like a prayer, and Paul shattered under him, the world narrowing to the heat of their joining. After, they lay tangled in sheets that smelled like them, Andrew's head on Paul's chest, breath evening out. "This changes nothing," Andrew mumbled, but his arm tightened around Paul's waist. Paul stroked his hair, silent, knowing lies when he heard them. Morning came cruel, sunlight slicing through the blinds like judgment. Andrew bolted upright, eyes wide with horror. "Shit. Paul." Last night, Paul reached for him, but Andrew jerked away, scrambling for boxers. "This was a mistake. I can't." He dressed in a frenzy, avoiding Paul's gaze. Mia called. "We're grabbing brunch." "Forget this happened." Paul sat up, sheets pooling around his waist, voice steady despite the ache. You don't get to kiss me like that and then run. Andrew. Andrew paused at the door, back turned. Watch me. The slam echoed like finality. But Paul couldn't forget. Neither could Andrew, though he tried, drowning in Mia's return, in law school prep courses, in anything that wasn't the memory of Paul's body under his. Weeks blurred. Awkward silences at breakfast. Andrew crashing on the couch to avoid the bed. Paul edited his thesis film in isolation. Footage of rainy nights now laced with ghosts. The betrayal hit in August. Heat wave choking the city. Paul came home early from a shift at the production house, arms full of groceries, to find Andrew on the couch with Mia and 3 of their old dorm buddies from freshman year. Laughter died as Paul entered, bags rustling. Andrew's face paled. Paulie. We were just. Mia smirked, wineglass in hand. Andrew was telling us about that wild party. The one where you two experimented. The room erupted in chuckles, low and knowing. One guy, Mike from the gym, slapped Andrew's back. Dude, straight no more? Respect. Paul's stomach dropped. The bags slipped, eggs cracking on the linoleum. You told them? His voice was whisper thin. Andrew wouldn't meet his eyes. It was nothing, man. Just drunk talk. Brothers joke about that shit. It wasn't a joke. It was exposure, raw and ripping. Paul fled to his room, door locked, chest heaving with sobs that tasted like blood. Andrew knocked once. Paul, come on. But Paul didn't answer. That night, he packed a duffel, clothes, laptop, the Polaroid of them grinning on the High Line from last summer. He left a note on the fridge. You're free now. Don't call. The subway to Brooklyn felt eternal, the train rattling like his pulse. He crashed on Javier's couch, then Theo's, then a sublet in Bed-Stuy that smelled like mildew but had a window overlooking a stoop where old ladies gossiped in patois. Andrew texted once. I'm sorry. Panicked. Paul deleted it, blocked the number, threw himself into work, gopher on a short film set, fetching coffee and dodging the director's advances. Fall semester started without him. Paul deferred, took freelance gigs editing wedding videos that made his skin crawl. Andrew vanished into Colombia, whispers filtering back through mutual friends. He's dating some girl from his torts class. Buried in books. Paul told himself it was relief, but nights were war. Dreams of Andrew's mouth on his, waking sweat-soaked and hollow. The climax brewed over months, a storm gathering force. It broke on a crisp October evening, Paul walking home from a screening at IFC, leaves crunching underfoot like brittle bones. Andrew was there, on the stoop of Paul's new place, collar turned up against the chill, hands shoved in pockets. Paul, one word, and the world tilted. Go away. Paul tried to sidestep, but Andrew blocked him, eyes red-rimmed. Please. 5 minutes. Against his better judgment, Paul unlocked the door, led him inside to the cramped living room with its sagging futon and stacks of scripts. Andrew paced, words tumbling. I fucked up. Everything. After that night, I couldn't stop thinking about you. Scared the shit out of me. How right it felt. So I told the guys, like it was a punchline, to make it small. But it wasn't. It was everything. He stopped, voice breaking. I outed you. And myself. Mia dumped me when she heard the truth. Said I was confused. Paul crossed his arms, walling off the ache. Confused? Or just ashamed? Andrew flinched. Both. God, Paul, I grew up in that house, Dad with his golf buddies, Mom's church ladies, all family values bullshit. Being straight was my armor. You were the chink in it. Rain started again, pattering the window like impatient fingers. Paul sank onto the futon, exhaustion crashing. Why now? Law school's got you, right? Perfect life. Andrew knelt, close but not touching, eyes pleading. Because I can't breathe without you. That night it wasn't a mistake. It was the first honest thing I ever did. Tears tracked his face. I love you, Paul. Have for years. Just took me too damn long to say it. The words hung, heavy as the storm outside. Paul searched his face, seeing the boy from the dorm, the man on the fire escape, the ghost in his dreams. Love isn't enough, he whispered. You broke me. Andrew nodded, broken open. I know. Let me fix it. Or let me go. But don't pretend you don't feel it too. Thunder rolled, and Paul cracked, pulling Andrew into a kiss that tasted like forgiveness and salt. They moved slow this time, deliberate, bodies rediscovering in the dim lamplight. Andrew's hands trembled as he undressed Paul, mapping scars of the heart with lips and whispers. I'm sorry. Over every inch. Paul arched, guiding him. They're joining a reclamation, deep, unhurried, the rain a symphony outside. After, they lay spent, Andrew's head on Paul's chest again, but this time no dawn flight. What now? Andrew murmured. Paul traced his spine. We figure it. No running. Winter wrapped the city in its iron grip, but inside Paul's bed-stewy brownstone, warmth bloomed tentative, like the first crocuses pushing through concrete. Andrew transferred credits to a film adjunct program at NYU. To be close, he said, though tuition gouged his savings, and they navigated the newness with the caution of bomb techs. Mornings were coffee and tentative kisses over the sink. Andrew's law dreams deferred to a paralegal gig at a queer rights firm in Midtown. Irony, he joked, but his eyes shone with purpose. Paul's thesis film premiered at a Tribeca Microfest, a raw cut called Echoes in the Rain, blurry shots of fire escapes and stolen glances, the kiss under the downpour edited into something mythic. Andrew sat front row, hands squeezing Paul's until knuckles whitened. The Q&A was brutal. A critic called it derivative queer longing, but an indie producer slipped Paul a card, murmuring, "You've got fire, kid." That night, they celebrated at a hole in the wall in Little Italy, candlelight flickering over Chianti glasses. Andrew raised a toast. To echoes that become symphonies. Paul laughed, the sound free for the first time in months. But conflict simmered beneath the idol. Andrew's family loomed like a guillotine. Christmas approached, and the texts from Connecticut escalated. When are you coming home, son? Dad's asking about Yale. Andrew showed Paul one over brunch at a Clinton Hill cafe. Bagels steaming. They still think I'm straight. Engaged to the firm. Whatever. Paul chewed slowly. Tell them. Or don't. But you can't straddle forever. Andrew's fork clattered. Easy for you to say. Your folks know. Mine? They'd disown me faster than you can say. Conversion therapy. The cafe buzzed oblivious. A couple at the next table arguing over oat milk. Paul reached across, thumb stroking Andrew's wrist. Then we go together. As us. The idea terrified Andrew, but Paul's steadiness wore him down. They drove up in Paul's beat-up Civic, bought with freelance checks, the turnpike a blur of sodium lights and exit signs promising escape. Andrew fidgeted the whole way, leg bouncing, mixtape of Springsteen and Hozier looping. Paul kept one hand on the wheel, the other in Andrew's lap. "Breathe," he said at the George Washington Bridge. Andrew leaned over, kissing his temple. "I love you. Remember that." The house was WASP perfection, colonial in Greenwich, manicured lawn dusted with snow, a wreath on the door like a noose. Mrs. Hargrove, Eleanor, greeted them with hugs and apple cider, her pearls clicking like judgment. Mr. Hargrove, Tom, clapped Andrew on the back too hard, scanning Paul. "New roommate? Heard you ditched Columbia." Andrew swallowed. "Actually, that Paul's my boyfriend." The silence stretched, broken only by the tick of a grandfather clock. Eleanor's smile froze. Tom's face reddened. "Boyfriend," Tom echoed, voice booming. "What the hell is this, Andrew?" Andrew stood taller, Paul's hand in his a lifeline. "It's who I am. Been hiding it too long." Dinner was a minefield. Turkey carved with surgical precision. Conversation skirting the edges. Eleanor asked about Paul's line of work, her tone laced with condescension. "Film? How?" "Creative." Paul smiled thinly. "Pays the bills." Tom dominated with stock tips and golf scores, but his eyes bored into Andrew, accusatory. After pie, he pulled Andrew into the study, leather chairs and scotch decanters, door ajar just enough for Paul to hear the fallout. "You're throwing away everything," Tom growled. "For what? Some phase? Men don't build families, Andrew. They destroy them." Andrew's voice cracked. "This isn't a phase. Dad. Paul's my family." A pause. Then Tom's sigh, heavy as defeat. "Think of your mother. This'll kill her." Paul slipped out to the porch, breath fogging the night, stars sharp overhead. Andrew found him there, face streaked. "He said he'd cut me off. No tuition. No trust fund." Paul pulled him close, coat's muffling sobs. "We don't need it. We've got us." They drove back at dawn. Andrew's hand on Paul's thigh, the radio humming Thunder Road like a vow. New Year's brought a fragile peace. Andrew's parents sent a card, and signed, generic but no calls. He threw himself into the firm, interning on a case for trans youth rights, coming home late with fire in his eyes. "These kids, Paul, they're us. A decade ago." Paul nodded, editing a doc short on ballroom culture, the apartment alive with their shared chaos. Takeout containers, script pages, Andrew's law texts dog-eared beside Paul's storyboards. Romance wove through the grit. Valentine's, Andrew surprised Paul with tickets to Angels in America at the public front row, tears streaming during the pillow talk scene. Afterward, they walked the frozen paths of Washington Square Arch, snow falling soft. "Perestroika," Andrew whispered, quoting. "Rebuilding from the ashes." Paul kissed him under the arch, slow and deep, the world fading to their rhythm. But betrayal's shadow lingered. In March, Mike, the gym buddy from the party, reached out via Instagram DM. "Heard you and Andy are official." Wild. But heads up, he's still got that ex sniffing around. Attached was a photo, Mia at a bar mixer, arm linked with Andrew, both laughing. Timestamp, last week. Paul's gut twisted. It was innocuous, a Columbia alumni event. Andrew had mentioned, but the intimacy stung. He confronted him that night, photo on his phone like evidence. Andrew blanched. It's nothing. She cornered me, wanted closure. I told her we're done. Paul paced the kitchen, voice rising. Closure or temptation? You swore no more running. Andrew grabbed his shoulders. Paul, listen, I went because I had to end it clean. She's toxic, but she knew me before. This, he gestured between them. Before I knew myself. Paul's eyes burned. And what if she whispers doubts? Makes you miss the easy lie. The fight escalated. Words like shrapnel. Paul's insecurities about being the experiment. Andrew's frustration at constant trials. You think I don't doubt too? Andrew shouted. Every day. I wake up scared you'll see I'm not enough. Paul recoiled. Then prove it. Or let me go. Andrew stormed out, door slamming into the night. Paul curled on the futon. Phone silent, the photo mocking from the screen. Hours later, keys rattled. Andrew, soaked from spring rain, eyes wild. I went to her place. Told her everything. That I love you. That straight was the cage. And you're the key. He dropped to his knees. Paul's hands in his. No more doubts. Marry me? Someday. When we're ready. Paul pulled him up. Kiss fierce. Someday. Summer hummed with tentative mending. They sublet a cheaper spot in Crown Heights. Fire escape overlooking a community garden where old Caribbean ladies grew callaloo and gossip. Andrew's internship turned paid. And Paul landed a PA gig on a Netflix pilot. Long hours, but checks that covered date nights at Sylvia's Soul Food, where Andrew devoured ribs and Paul savored the victory of their normalcy. Yet the world intruded. Pride Month peaked with the parade, rainbows flooding Fifth Avenue. They marched with the firm's contingent, Andrew's sign reading Love Wins even in the closet. Paul filmed snippets on his phone, capturing Andrew's grin amid the floats and feathers. But a counter-protester, red-faced, sign-thumping God hates fags, shoved through the crowd, spitting at Andrew's feet. Traitor, he bellowed. Andrew froze, color draining, until Paul yanked him back. Hey, fuck off. Security swarmed. But the venom lingered. That night, in their bed, Andrew shook. What if he's right? What if I'm just betraying everything? Paul held him, voice steady. You're betraying the lie. That's bravery. They made love slow, reaffirming. Andrew's body a map Paul knew by heart. Whispers of mine and always. Fall brought harvest. Andrew's parents visited unannounced. Eleanor with a tentative hug. Tom with gruff handshakes and a check for the future. No apologies, but a thaw dinner at their place. Awkward but present. We saw your film review in the Times, Eleanor said shyly. Proud. Andrew teared up, Paul's foot nudging his under the table. Climax crested in November, the city crisp with turning leaves. Andrew's firm took a high-profile case, defending a queer teen against conversion camp abuses. The trial was a media circus, Fox News sneers, CNN spotlights. Andrew prepped witnesses, nights blurring into dawn, Paul bringing coffee and shoulders to cry on. Opening arguments, Andrew in the gallery, heart in throat as the lead counsel eviscerated the plaintiffs. But betrayal struck surgical. Midway, a leak, internal emails twisted to paint the firm as radical agitators. Andrew's name surfaced, anonymous source fingering him. Reporters swarmed their stoop, mics thrusting. Mr. Hargrove, is your involvement personal? Are you gay? Andrew barricaded inside, Paul shielding him. It's Mia, Andrew realized, piecing calls and friendly check-ins. She works at the opposing firm now. Revenge. Rage boiled. Paul wanted to confront, but Andrew stopped him. No. We fight clean. They hunkered. Trial raging on TV. Paul's footage of pride marches used as evidence. His voiceover narrating resilience. The jury deliberated 3 days. Verdict. Win. Camps ruled unconstitutional in state. Victory party at the firm. Champagne toasts. Andrew hoisted on shoulders. But in the bathroom, he broke, sobbing into Paul's shirt. I almost lost you to this. To fear. Paul cupped his face. You didn't. We're unbreakable. Yet the leaks ripple. Tom's old golf buddies called, withdrawing a job offer Andrew hadn't chased. Can't associate, the email read. Andrew crumpled it, but Paul saw the fracture. It's okay, Paul lied. We'll build our own. December snowed in redemption. Andrew proposed not with rings, but a key to a 1-bedroom in Fort Greene, lease in both names. Our start, he said, on one knee in the garden, fairy lights twinkling. Paul pulled him up, yes on his lips, kiss ceiling. The new apartment was a blank canvas, scuffed hardwood, bay windows framing brownstones like a Hopper painting, the kind of place that whispered potential amid the creaks. They christened it with paint rollers and pizza, Andrew in overalls smudged blue, Paul directing traffic like a set designer. Here for the art wall, Paul said, taping a frame of their fire escape Polaroid. Andrew grinned, stealing a kiss midstroke. And here for the bed, he murmured, hands sliding low. Laughter echoed, the city outside a distant hum. Paul's Netflix gig extended 2nd season. More lines, a bump to coordinator. He came home with stories of diva actors and dawn calls, Andrew waiting with reheated lasagna and foot rubs. Andrew, meanwhile, aced the LSAT retake, applications to queer-friendly programs at Fordham and CUNY. No Ivies, he declared over takeout pad thai. I want real justice, not corner office bullshit. Paul toasted with a plastic cup. To the revolutionaries, romance deepened in the quiet hours. Weekends at the cloisters, wandering medieval gardens hand in hand, Andrew quoting Chaucer mangled. Won that April with his shower's suit. Makes me want to ravish thee. Paul shoved him playfully into the hedges, their laughter drawing stares from tourists. Evenings, they cooked, Andrew's disastrous attempts at gumbo redeemed by Paul's spice rescues, dancing to Coltrane in socks, bodies swaying like reeds. But conflict brewed familial. Eleanor's calls turned frequent, laced with worry. Your father's not well, Andrew. The stress. Tom had a mild heart episode, denied, of course, chalked to overwork, and guilt gnawed Andrew. He won't see a shrink. Says it's weakness. Paul listened over late-night chamomile, Andrew's head in his lap. Go home. Alone, if you need. But come back to me. Andrew flew up solo. A weekend thaw. He returned lighter, Tom's handshake firmer. He asked about you, Andrew reported, unpacking flannel from Connecticut. Said your film's got grit. Paul arched a brow. High praise, but Andrew's eyes shadowed. Mom cornered me. Wants grandkids. Adopt. Whatever. But make it normal. The word normal landed like frost. Paul pulled him close. Our normal's enough. Spring unfurled with opportunity. Paul's short, Echoes expanded, screamed at Outfest. A standing ovation that left him shaking in the lobby. Andrew whooped loudest. Bouquet of daisies thrust into his arms. My star. Post-party. They snuck to Griffith Observatory knockoff in Jersey. Telescope pointed at stars. What's that one? Paul asked. Chin on Andrew's shoulder. Orion. The hunter. Andrew turned, kissing him under the dome. Hunting you forever. Betrayal's echo resurfaced in May. Mia's ghost unwilling to fade. She emailed Andrew, CCING Paul. Petty. Congrats on the win. But karma's a bitch. Attached. Screenshots of Andrew's old texts to her. Pre-coming out. Flirty and damning. Miss you already. That night was fire. Paul read them stone-faced, handing back the phone. Ancient history, but doubt crept. Nights when Andrew worked late. Paul scrolling profiles of actors, wondering if he'd ever be enough. The fracture widened at a firm gala. Black tie. Hudson Yacht Club. Chandeliers dripping light. Andrew in a rented tux. Paul in thrift store velvet. They posed for photos amid donors. Mia was there. Arm candy for a silver-haired partner. Her dress a red flag. She cornered Andrew by the bar. Voice honeyed venom. Still playing house? He know you're slumming. Andrew stiffened. Walk away. Mia. Paul. Fetching champagne. Overheard the tale. Slumming? He echoed later. In their cab home. City lights streaking. Andrew groaned. She's projecting. Hates that I chose real. But Paul's jaw set. Chose? Or settled? The argument ignited, cab swerving to their block. Words flying. Paul's fear of being the safe option. Andrew's exhaustion at proving. You think I settled? You're my fucking universe. Andrew yelled, slamming the door. Paul slept on the couch. Dawn breaking gray. Andrew found him there. Coffee brewing. Eyes pleading. I called her firm. Reported the harassment. It's over. He knelt. Vulnerable. But us? If you want out. Paul sighed, pulling him down. In. Always. They mended slow. Therapy sessions at a queer center. Andrew unpacking privilege. Paul his abandonment scars, turning wounds to wisdom. Summer scorched. The city a furnace of jackhammers and iced lattes. They escaped to Fire Island Pines. A friend's borrowed share. Beaches white as bone. Dunes whispering secrets. Andrew in board shorts. Building sandcastles like kids. Paul filming the waves crash. One night, bonfire crackling. They walked the shore. Bioluminescent plankton glowing underfoot like fallen stars. Remember our first rain? Andrew asked. Toes in surf. Paul nodded. Changed everything. Andrew stopped. Facing him. Sea wind whipping. Marry me. For real. Rings and vows. Paul's breath caught. Yes. They made love on a blanket. Waves lapping. The world vast and theirs. Fall harvested growth. Andrew started at CUNY Law. Nights buried in con law. Paul producing a web series on queer history. Interviews with Stonewall vets. Andrew cameo ing with earnest questions. Tom's health stabilized. A family dinner in the city. Neutral ground at Peter Luger. Steaks sizzling under tension. Eleanor teared up over dessert. We were scared. But happiness. That's the point. Tom grunted. Just don't fuck it up, son. Andrew squeezed Paul's hand under the table. Progress. Climax loomed in December. A storm named Personal. Paul's series dropped. Viral hit. Think pieces on authentic gay narratives. But trolls swarmed. Death threats in DMs. One doxing their address. Andrew barricaded the door, calling cops, but fear festered. "This is my fault," Paul whispered, curled fetal. "Dragging you into my mess." Andrew held him fierce. "Our mess. We fight it together." The threat traced to a Mia-adjacent alt-right forum, her fingerprints and mods, but no proof. Andrew channeled rage into a pro bono suit, suing for harassment. Court dates blurred with holidays, stress etching lines on Andrew's face. Christmas Eve, snow blanketing Fort Greene. They lit the tree, tinsel, and ornaments from thrift dives. "To us," Andrew toasted eggnog. Paul clinked. Unbreakable. But midnight brought the break. A call from Tom. "Heart attack. Come now." They raced to Greenwich. Tires chaining on black ice. Hospital fluorescence harsh. Tom in ICU. Tubes snaking. Eleanor weeping. "He was reading your article," she said. "About the series." Said he was proud. Andrew collapsed into a chair. Paul's hand anchor. Vigil stretched. Beeps and whispers. Tom's grip weak but there. Dawn. He woke. Eyes on Andrew. "Knew it was you, son. From the start. No gay. Just acceptance raw. Love your boy. He's good people." Tears fell. Forgiveness unspoken. Recovery was slow, but Tom mended visits to rehab. Paul bringing films on a tablet. Andrew reading briefs aloud. "Family," Tom muttered once, patting Paul's knee. New Year dawned hopeful, the apartment aglow with resolutions. Andrew's ring, a simple band from a Brooklyn jeweler, fit Paul's finger like fate. "Till death," Andrew vowed. On the fire escape. City fireworks blooming. Spring 2026 bloomed defiant. Cherry trees along Eastern Parkway, a pink riot against gray skies. Paul's series snagged an Emmy-nod web category. Underdog glory, and the ceremony was a whirlwind. Red carpet nerves. Andrew in a borrowed suit, whispering jokes to steady Paul's shakes. They lost to a glossy drama, but the after-party buzzed with offers. A pilot deal from HBO. Whispers of Sundance. "My producer," Andrew teased, nuzzling Paul's neck in the hotel suite. Fuck the trophy. Andrew's law clinic thrived. Arguing microcases. Evictions for queer families. Custody battles laced with bias. One win. A trans dad's rights upheld, had him home late. Eyes alight. "Justice isn't abstract," he said, shedding tie. Paul waited with stir-fry and a massage, thumbs kneading knots. "It's you." Romance ritualized. Sunday markets at Smorgasburg. Sampling arepas and empanadas. Andrew's arm loose around Paul's waist. Unself-conscious. They adopted a rescue mutt. Scruffy terrier mix named Echo. Walks in Prospect Park turning meditative. Leaves crunching under paws. "Our kid," Andrew joked, tossing a frisbee. Paul filmed it. Golden hour light gilding the mythic. Conflict stirred subtle. Andrew's ambition clashed with Paul's rising star. Late calls pulling Paul to LA Scouts. Andrew buried in mocks. "Miss you," texts read. Hearts emoji chained. A weekend apart. Paul pitching in Silver Lake. Andrew solo with Echo. Video calls grainy. "Come home," Andrew pleaded. Background the empty bed. Paul did. Plane landing to Andrew at arrivals. Kiss airport public. Betrayal specter. An old flame resurfaced. Paul's ex. Theo. Tats faded. Now a tattoo artist in Portland. DM'd congrats on the nod. Link to his Insta. Shirtless installs. Captions flirty. Harmless. But Andrew saw, scrolling Paul's phone during a nap. He still pines? Andrew asked, voice-edged, handing back the device. Paul sat up. Ancient. Why dig? Andrew paced the living room, echo whining at his feet. Because you're gone more. Lights. Camera. What if I'm the pit stop? Paul's heart clenched, the echo of his own old fears. Pit stop? You're my home. But Andrew's eyes doubted. Prove it. Say no to LA. The fight simmered days. Paul's defensiveness. Andrew's cling. Therapy unpacked it. Andrew's abandonment script from Tom's chill. Paul's from being the phase. We choose daily, the counselor said. Paul did. Deferred LA. Took remote consults. Andrew reciprocated, joining a couple's retreat in the Catskills, cabins and hikes, nights by fire pits spilling souls. Summer sizzled with solidarity. They road-tripped Route 66 reverse, NYC to Chicago, blues bars and motels with neon vacancy. Andrew drove, playlist eclectic, Billie Holiday to Bad Bunny. Stops. Diner Pie in Ohio, where Paul confessed boyhood crushes on the neighbor's son. World's largest ball of twine in Kansas. Andrew snapping selfies. Our monument. In motels. Lovemaking urgent shower steam. Sheets tangled. Andrew's whispers mine a mantra. Back east. Climax crested personal professional. Andrew's thesis. A paper on queer constitutionalism, submitted to Harvard Law Review. Acceptance email pinged during Paul's Sundance Prep virtual panel. Nerves jangling. We did it, Andrew whooped, spinning Paul in the kitchen. But Tom's call followed. Proud, son. But Harvard, that's legacy. Legacy. The word chafed. Wasp ghosts in boardrooms. Andrew fled. I want CUNY, he told Paul later. Wine loosening tongues. Street level. Not ivory. Paul nodded. Your call. But doubt flickered. Was it conviction or compromise for them? Betrayal bit in August. Heat wave breaking. An ex-colleague from the firm, jealous of Andrew's pub, leaked drafts to a conservative blog. Radical queer agenda in academia. Headlines screamed. Harvard-bound lawyer pushes perversion. Trolls doxed again. Slurs spray-painted their stoop. Andrew erased it dawn-dazed. Paint fumes bitter. This is what fighting gets. Paul found him on the fire escape. Echo in lap. Eyes hollow. Run, Paul asked soft. Andrew shook head. No. But. Tired. The vulnerability cracked Paul. He pulled Andrew inside. Bed a bunker. Then rest. On me. Love-making healing, slow, reverent. Andrew's tears salting skin. Fall fortified. Andrew withdrew the Harvard app. Doubling CUNY commitment. Clinic expansion. Pro bono flood. Tom's reaction. Silence. Then a letter handwritten. Scotch-spotted. Knew you'd choose heart over hall. Like me. Once. Eleanor visited. Baking scones. Cooing over echo. Family evolves, she said, hugging Paul. Paul's Sundance short premiered. Echoes remixed. Their story veiled in fiction. Jury prize, emotional impact. Stage acceptance. Paul choked. For the ones who claimed straight. Until. Andrew in audience. Tears mirroring. Winter whispered wedding. They planned small. Brooklyn Botanic Gardens. Spring cherry blossoms. Invites handwritten. NYU pals. Firm fam. Theo politely declined. Rings. Matching meteorite. Cosmic promise. Bachelor night. Bar hop in the village. Andrew's toast slurred sincere. To the night that broke me open, but eve of conflict crested. Mia appeared, uninvited, at the rehearsal dinner, dressed demure, I sharp. Peace offering, she said, glass raised. Whispers. She'd lost her job, post-leak scandal. Andrew stiff, Paul wary. Later, alone, she cornered Paul in the garden. He's using you. Straight boy playing rebel. When he bores, he'll bolt. Doubt poison the night, Paul tossing. Andrew snoring soft. Dawn, he confessed. She's poison. Don't let her in, Paul exhaled. I won't. Vows exchanged under petals. Andrew's I choose you. Every rain. Paul's every echo. Yours. Honeymoon. Amalfi knockoff in the Keys. Kayaks through mangroves. Sunsets pina coladas. They swam naked. Waves lapping. Andrew's laugh free. Husband, he tested. Grin wide. Paul kissed salt from his lips. Husband. Back. Life layered. Paul's pilot greenlit. Queer rom-com. Andrew consulting script notes. Echo puppied to adulthood. Chases in the park. Tom's health rallied. A Hargrove Hudson barbecue. Grills smoking. Tom flipping burgers. Eleanor quizzing Paul on that film nonsense. Laughter bridged gaps. Climax quieted to cadence. Andrew's bar prep. Study marathons. Paul quizzing over flashcards. Exam week. Paul left notes. You got this. Counselor. Pass announced. They danced the apartment. Echo barking circles. Spring 2027. Botanic renewal. Paul's series spun off. Andrew clerking at a federal bench, queer judge. Ally ironclad. Mia faded, relocated. Rumor rehab. Tom's letter framed. Heart overhaul. One night. Fire escape perch. City hum below. Andrew's head on Paul's shoulder. That one night. Best mistake. Paul smiled. Best truth. Summer 2027 sweltered with promise. The city a cauldron of ambition and asphalt mirages. Paul's pilot-wrapped principle. LA trip triumphant. Dailies buzzing, returning to Andrew's airport sprint. Tackle hug amid travelers. Missed my leading man, Paul teased. But Andrew's kiss silenced. Deep and claiming. Echo's tail thwacked welcome. Dinner al fresco on the stoop. Ribs from the smokehouse. Neighbors nodding hellos. Andrew's clerkship immersed. Chambers a whirlwind of briefs and benches. His memos cited in rulings on marriage parity extensions. Small ripples. He downplayed over craft beer at McCarran, but Paul's eyes shone pride. Tsunamis. Babe. They people watched joggers, dog walkers, a proposal under the arch, Andrew's hand tracing Paul's wedding band. Us. But early. Romance rooted deeper. Anniversary. 1 year. They retraced the fire escape rain, rooftop picnic. String lights illicit. Andrew blindfolded Paul up. Reveal. Candles. That first mixtape looping. To the night, he toasted Prosecco. Paul pulled him down. Picnic forgotten. Bodies reacquainting under stars. Slow burn to blaze. Andrew's murmurs love you a litany. Conflict crept career. Paul's show offer. Showrunner track. But relocation clause Vancouver shoot. 6 months. The exec pitched over Zoom. Skyline Vancouver gleaming. Paul hesitated. Mute. Andrew. Post call. Paste. Go. This is your shot. But his voice cracked, echoes of old separations. We survived worse. Paul nodded, but booked tickets round trip. Commuter marriage, their pact. Betrayal's final gasp. Tom's passing. October fog. A call mid-rehearsal. Eleanor. Voice ash. Stroke. Sudden. They flew commercial. Hands clasped turbulence through. Hospital vigil. Tom's face slack. Monitors flatlining memory. Andrew eulogized private, whispers of lacrosse fields. Law dreams. The son you raised right. Eleanor clung post-funeral. He loved you both. Said it. End. Grief hollowed Andrew, nights pacing, echo shadowing worried. Paul canceled Vancouver week 1. Held space. Drives to Connecticut beaches. Tom's old jazz record spinning. He chose heart. Andrew echoed the letter. Tears salting sand. Paul, like you. Mending. Holidays with Eleanor. Tree trimming tentative. Her stories of young Tom, rebel lawyer, anti-war. Legacy, she said, bauble in hand. Yours now. Winter thawed to renewal. Paul's show streamed. Critics rapped. Tender. True queer love. Emmys buzz. But Andrew's bar retake loomed. Stress migraines. Mock orals brutal. Paul role reversed. Flashcards at dawn. Pep talks pre-sleep. Pass party. Firm bash. Andrew's speech. To the loves that launch. Paul teared. Toast returned. To echoes eternal. Spring 2028. Bloom full. Andrew joined a boutique firm. Queer litigation focus. Cases stacking. Asylum for LGBTQ refugees. Workplace suits. Paul co-created spin-off. Remote from Brooklyn base. Echo-sired pups. Litter donated. One kept. Pup named Rain. Chaos doubled. Romance reinvented. Vow renewal. Intimate botanics again. Cherry heavy. Vows evolved. Andrews through storms. Paul's to every dawn. Rings renewed. Meteorite etched dates. Climax crested communal. Firm's landmark. Class action against conversion holdouts. Andrew lead. Media maelstrom. Op-eds. Protests. Paul's doc crew embedded. Filming grit. Prep rooms. Witness tears. Climax day. Courtroom packed. Andrew's closing. America's promise liberty for all loves. Verdict. Victory. Camps shuttered nationwide. Pandemonium. Hugs. Tears. Press scrum. Paul filmed Andrew's exhale. Mic thrust. For every kid scared straight. You're not alone. Headline. From closet to court. The gay lawyer who changed it all. Afterglow. Family expanded. Eleanor's remarriage. Gentle widower with sailboat stories. Barbecues blended. Ribs and regattas. Tom's ghost gracious. Betrayal? Forgiven. Mia's card arrived post-verdict. You win. Be happy. Andrew burned it. Ashes to wind. Summer idol. Keys return. Kayaks to conch keys. Rain pup splashed. Echo gray-muzzled wise. One dusk. Beach walk. Andrew paused. Shell in palm. Kids? Someday. Surrogacy. Adoption your call. Paul smiled. Wave-kissed. Someday. With you. Fall harvested legacy. Paul's Sundance feature. Straight no more. Their story. Fictionalized. Andrew producer credit. Premiere tears. Standing O. Q&A raw. Andrew on stage. Truth's the hook. Oscar whispers. But joy domestic. Stoop suppers. Neighbors toasts. Winter wrapped content. Christmas. Eleanor's tree-laden heirlooms. Andrew's gift. Deed snippet. Connecticut cottage. Tom's bequest. Our escape. Paul's family reel clips from Rain to Rulings. One night. Fire escape. Now there's strings permanent city below a tapestry. Andrew's head pillowed. That one night. Forever grateful. Paul kissed crown. Forever changed. Humanistic close. No tidy bows, but growth's grace. They built not despite fractures, but through love of verb, chosen daily. In America's sprawl, two men, echoes entwined, rain ready always. Epilogue whisper years on, graying, lecturing joint, Paul on screen truths, Andrew on legal loves. Students ask, the secret, Andrew grins, Paul's hand in his. One night, and every after.